Welcome to the Commander Jason Fun Deck series. In each episode, I'll break down one of my personal Commander decks. I'll look at each card in the deck and talk about why I included it. This is my Magical Kingdom deck. Since this deck is based on the idea of a magical kingdom, the first thing I had to do is pick a commander. I used Gatherer from the Wizards website and searched for Legendary Kings, Legal, and Commander. The list was too large to review each result here, so I'll save some time. I went with Kenrith, the Returned King, mainly because he contains all 5 colors. He has 5 abilities, 1 for each color, and these abilities can be quite powerful. However, I'm building a thematic deck, not a deck to abuse his powers. Before I get into the card choices, what is the theme of this deck? The idea is to have a deck that feels like a magical medieval kingdom. Maybe some King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Maybe some fairy tales. So, I will have a royal family and a royal court. I will have knights and soldiers and quests, and hopefully it will feel like the picture I'm trying to paint. The royal family consists of the king, queen, prince, and princess. We've already looked at the king, so for the queen we have Marchesa, who introduces the monarch mechanic. I've included the monarch mechanic as a sub-theme because it fits the kingdom theme so well. It also helps with card advantage because at the end of your turn, if you're the monarch, you get to draw a card. It's good to be the king. Monarch. Back to the family. Charming Prince is a 2/2 for 2 with 3 really nice choices for inner abilities. And our beloved princess can keep your life total up, especially if you give her a sword. The royal court consists of the king's wizard, the king's advisor, the king's clergy, and the king's assassin. The wizard, mercurial chemist, draws cards and shoots creatures. The advisor, garrulous sycophant, gives bonuses for being the monarch. The cleric, fiend hunter, smites the largest danger to the kingdom. The royal assassin encourages creatures not to tap to attack. The rest of the court is Sir Chandler and 3 ladies. By chance, most creatures in this deck are human, so I tried to extend that some. Sir Chandler is a human knight. Lady Evangela is a human cleric. Lady Z is a human soldier. Unfortunately, Lady Calera is an elf, but the king likes her, so she made it. Next up, I have a couple of commanders to lead the armies. Baird defends the kingdom by taxing all attackers, while Luzon commands the attacking armies, being mostly unblockable and drawing cards. Now we have the Knights of the Round Table. A claimed knight can find another knight, a sword, or other goodie when he enters. Dragon Soul Knight can become a dragon. Fervent Champion comes out early and is easy to equip. Hero of Blade Hold's battlecry is so heroic that soldiers appear out of thin air to join her attacks. Hero of Oxid Ridge has such a fearsome battlecry that smaller creatures won't even block. Heron's Grace Champion can be flashed in, making all your humans bigger and gaining a bunch of life. Knight of Autumn, though a dryad, gives good choices on entering the battlefield. I usually keep her in hand until I can use her as a disenchant. Knight of Dawn is a human that can gain protection from any color. This allows him to be the ultimate blocker, and on offense, he can be unblockable. Knight of the White Orchid can search for a plains when he enters. If you run dual lands that have plains as one of the basic land types, you can search for whatever color you need at the time. Smitten Swordmaster can go on an adventure to gain life and to make each opponent lose life, and then it can enter the battlefield as a 2/1 with lifelink. The kingdom also has some specialized protectors. These include Dragon Hunter, because you can't really have a kingdom with dragons running rampant, Elite Inquisitor to handle those pesky undead, and Giant Killer, who can go on an adventure to kill a big creature. Later, he can be cast as a human that can tap down the creature that is most concerning. As I've said, I wanted the deck to have some King Arthur flavor. I've already discussed his knights, so here are a few other cards to help enrich the story. The Circle of Loyalty acts as the round table. The Chalice of Life is the Holy Grail, and Collective Blessing represents the blessing bestowed upon the knights for accepting the holy quest. Functionally, it helps the creatures in this deck to not be so small. These 2 cards just kind of fit. The prince needs a slipper in order to search for his bride, and the king must have a throne. These cards expand the monarch subtheme. Each one, upon entering the battlefield, returns the king to his rightful throne. While you are Monarch, Keeper of Keys makes the armies unblockable. Protector of the Crown is a giant who redirects all damage to himself while you are the Monarch. This is why Giant Killer is okay with him and allows him to remain in the kingdom. Knights of the Black Rose steal life from anyone that takes Monarch from you. Marquessa's Decree is an enchantment that causes life loss to anyone who dares attack you while you are the Monarch. Knights need a purpose, so there are 2 quests and 2 expeditions. When Quest for the Holy Relic is complete, you get to tutor for a sword, put it directly onto the battlefield, and attach it to a creature. Once the conditions are met, Quest for Renewal allows you to untap all your creatures on each person's turn, given a pseudo-vigilance effect. Coney Heart Expedition allows you to search for 2 basic lands and put them directly into play. This really helps a 5-color deck. Ear Ruin Expedition allows you to draw 2 cards. The kingdom has 3 mighty swords. Godsend exiles any creature unfortunate enough to block or be blocked by a knight brandishing this holy artifact. Hero's Blade can be attached, for free, to any legendary creature as that creature enters play. Sword of Vengeance grants power, first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste to any creature who wields it. For removal, let's start with Banish into Fable. This 6-mana instant is here because it fits the theme. It bounces a non-land permanent and creates a 2/2 Knight token. If you control an artifact, you get to copy it. If you control an enchantment, you get to copy it. So, you're likely to bounce 3 permanents and get 3 Knights. Don't forget that you can target your own permanents to save them or reuse their come into play abilities. Embereth's Shieldbreaker adventures to destroy an artifact, and later can join your team as a 2/1 Knight. Swords to Plowshares is a white staple. It's a 1-mana instant that exiles a creature in exchange for granting its owner some life. In a pinch, you can exile your own creature to gain some life. Austere Command costs 6, but it is very versatile. You get to choose 2 of its 4 modes when you cast it. Martial Coup costs white X and creates X soldiers. However, if X is greater than 4, you destroy all other creatures. So you usually don't want to cast this for less than 7 mana. This deck contains numerous legendary creatures and a few legendary artifacts. Urza's Ruinous Blast exiles all non-land, non-legendary permanents, hopefully hurting your enemies way more than it hurts you. There are much better selections for card advantage, especially considering this deck runs blue. But again, it's more about fashion than function. Keep Watch is situational. Wait for a big attack against anyone, then cast. Mass Appeal cashes in on the abundance of humans in this deck. Merchant of the Veil's Adventure replaces a bad card with a new card. Later it becomes yet another human and has the ability to rummage every turn. Escape to the Wilds is an interesting card that can be quite powerful. For 5, you exile the top 5 cards of your library. You can play these cards into the end of your next turn. It also allows you to play an additional land this turn, helping with ramp. With this being a 5-color deck, there's as much need for color fixing as there is for mana ramp. Cultivate allows you to search for 2 different basic lands. Once Upon a Time is thematic. It's free if cast the first turn. Early it gets you the land you need, later it gets you a creature. Far Wanderings is an expensive rampant growth, but once you have 7 cards in your graveyard, you get 3 basic lands. Arcane Signet is gold in this deck, tapping for any color and only costing 2. Felwar Stone also costs 2, and taps for any color an opponent can produce, which could be all 5 colors. Soul Grail is another thematic pick, but it can produce whatever color you are missing. Chromatic Lantern is another godsend, not only tapping for any color, but allowing all of your lands to tap for any color. Every kingdom has tax, and this one has land tax. This enchantment that only costs 1 can fix all of your color and ramp needs. Expedition Map can get any land, so City of Brass or a castle. And Sol Ring pretty much goes into all decks. Let's take a quick look at the stats. It's no surprise that white makes up half of the deck. The other colors are pretty evenly distributed. White is not very good at card draw or mana ramp, both necessities, so we have to lean on other colors for both. That's the disparity between the white cost of the deck and the white mana production. As usual, 3 mana is the sweet spot for the deck. But this time, 1 and 2 mana make up more of the curve. Then it trails off slowly. This is due to the amount of low casting cost creatures, which knights normally are. Lastly, I just wanted to point out that there are 13 knights in this deck, and mainly by happenstance, 28 humans. When picking lands for this deck, I had to make sure that I had enough basics for cards like Cultivate and Land Tax. I went with 5 plains, 3 forests, 2 islands, 2 mountains, and 2 swamps. I mentioned dual lands when I talked about Knight of the White Orchid. Well, here they are. Notice in the middle of each card that they say both plains and another basic land type. Because Knight of the White Orchid says search for a plains, these qualify. If the wording had been search for a basic plains, these would not qualify. Command Tower, City of Brass, Exotic Orchard, and Path of Ancestry can produce all 5 colors. Exotic Orchard technically only produces colors that your opponents can produce, but this is usually 4 or 5 colors. The next 6 lands all produce 3 colors. The kingdom needs some castles and a keep. Reliquary Tower and some form of strip mine go into all of my decks. Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse really help with color fixing. These last 4 lands are not in the deck. When it was built, these cards had not yet been printed. At some point, I will modernize the deck, and these tricycle lands will definitely go in. I wanted to point them out because all of them are plains, so they can be searched for with Knight of the White Orchid. And pulling one late game isn't that bad because you can just cycle it away. That completes my Magic Kingdom build. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see the full deck list, I've included the link in the description below. This deck is an example of building around an idea. If you know of some cards that fit the theme better that I overlooked, I'd love to hear about them. Let me know in the comments. If you feel like you learned anything from this video, or if you just enjoyed it, please help me out by hitting the like button and subscribing. Thank you.